So I've been having a play with it and seeing what the improvements are, and if I think Motorola have done enough to remain competitive at the low end. And I have to say I'm quite impressed with it overall. There are some things that I would have liked to have seen them implement on it, which probably wouldn't have raised the price too much. And if they'd had have put some other stuff on it, I would have been happy to pay a little bit extra for those things. But in general, I think it offers you a nice package for the price, and it's pretty much unbeatable when it comes to your value for money option. And even gives some of the higher end phones a bit of a run for the money when you consider, the stock kind of software, which is very nice. As you can probably see, I'm actually using Nova Launcher Prime on this Moto G because I'm not really that much of a fan of Google Now Launcher. I think that it's probably not as sophisticated as Nova Launcher. But even if you do use, the Google Now Launcher that comes with the phone, you'll be pleased with the stock appearance of it and the lack of bloatware on the device. But in terms of the actual form factor, it feels quite substantial in the hand. It's not uncomfortable by any means. It's still, relatively easy to hold, but it's not as comfortable as the original model, and it does feel a bit chunky. I'd say it feels less chunky than the 930 Lumia 930, and it's rounded as well, which gives it a nice sit in the hand, and it's got a very nice minimalistic design about it. It's got the same type of cheap volume rocker and power button on the side, which I'm not that much of a fan of, but they do the job. I do like the way that they've moved the speakers to the front. You now got dual firing stereo speakers. You got your 8 megapixel camera on the back with a single LED flash, USB at the bottom, as well as headphone jack at the top, so all very standard positioning. I'm not a big fan of the notification light, which is it's about here somewhere. It's very hard to see and very dim, but then again, it's probably because I'm coming from the Moto X and I'm used to my active notifications and things like that. And I would have liked it if Motorola had put like a double tap to wake on or something like that. It feels a bit old-fashioned going to the power button every time and waking the device. But these are just minor quibbles, and in general, I think the form factor's fairly good. So basically, you have the ability to swap out the back, which is quite nice. And for people who like to customize their device, this is quite a nice addition by Motorola. You can see that basically you get a micro SD slot ×2, which I'm using with 3 and JIF. So it's quite useful for people who have like a business SIM and they want to use their phone as a work phone and a private phone as well. You do get micro SD compatibility as well, which I've got a 32 gig card in there. So I've heard somewhere it can support up to 64 gig cards, but don't quote me on that. The back does feel quite solid when you snap it on. But now and again I have noticed that when using the device, I can feel a bit of a clicky kind of sound at the bottom or at the top. It's not enough to be annoying, but I think that there could be a slight design issue with the back on this device. It's hard to replicate consistently, but I do notice it now and again. But when you look at the actual display, it's a very nice display. It's not as high pixel density as the last one, which was over 300 ppi, but this is roughly just below 300 ppi. So text appears very nice and smooth as you web browsing. There's very little need to zoom in, even though it's not a full HD panel. The only issue I have really with the display is that it doesn't get very bright when it's outdoors. Perfectly viewable when you're indoors, but I think it only gets up to 300 nits compared to your OnePlus One, which goes up to 400 nits. I think the average is 350, so just bear that in mind. You will need to bump up the brightness, but as I said, you know, the screen, the text quality, etc., feels very nice and crisp, and that 5-inch panel does get more content on, obviously, compared to a smaller device, which is very nice. The viewing angles of the actual screen, very nice indeed. Not the best, not up to the Z2 or, you know, your OnePlus One, but very decent nevertheless for the price. And the black levels, though not as good as an AMOLED, quite decent nevertheless. So I'm very happy with the screen on this device. I think that Motorola have certainly done a good job with it, particularly given the price point. In terms of the actual performance, you know, you're getting quad-core Snapdragon 400 with 1 gig of RAM. I would have liked it if Motorola had bumped it up to 1.5 gigs of RAM with Snapdragon 401 for a higher clock speed, but in general it handles things very admirably. You know, I've not had any major issues of slowdown or lags or anything. It's even doing slightly more intensive tasks. Oh, in fact, there is one issue of lag that I had with the device, and that was uploading to Google Chrome. But I think that could be to do with the low internal storage of 8 gigs. I think it was running out of storage when it was caching the file. But other than that, you know, dropping in and out of stuff, very nice, smooth experience. A testament to vanilla Android, which, you know, it can't really be beat when it comes to the speed. I think the 1 gig of RAM does mean that now and again, if you're really heavily multitasking, some things may be suspended in the background or force closed, which isn't ideal, but it happens very rarely. I think Motorola have been quick to push out a software update where that was being reported on for doing it on the music player when you were browsing. Don't think it does it anymore in my testing. So the specs decent, but I think could be improved for the next iteration. And I think Lollipop will improve the performance even more, which is due to come out quite soon. I do like the way you can put multiple SIMs in, as I said, which can be, you know, disabled or enabled under the settings. I think that's you know, a very nice feature of the device. It doesn't seem to have too much of an effect on the battery life in my testing. You're probably going to get slightly less battery life if you do use it, but not much to, you know, really cause a problem. So in terms of the camera, you know, I think that Moto have done an excellent job here. which I think they've improved it immeasurably over the last iteration of it, which was a kind of a weak point of the device. On this jobby, you get an 8 megapixel camera with a f2.0 lens, so better low light performance. Your focusing is quite quick as well as taking the shot. So no issues whatsoever in regards to the camera quality for this type of device. Obviously you can't expect amazing quality for it, but I'd say that some of the pictures it takes actually rival my Moto X, if I'm to be honest. The colour accuracy, the bokeh effect, and the lack of kind of graininess seems to be better on the Moto G. It seems to be very nice and true to life, but it doesn't record in full HD unfortunately, so just bear that in mind. The actual software is quite minimalistic, typical of Motorola, which gives you only a few settings really, such as panorama, touch focus and control, slow-mo video. You can also choose where you save your videos and pictures on the phone or on micro SD. It does take the 8 megapixel pictures in 4:3 aspect ratio and 6 megapixels for the 16:9 ratio, so bear that in mind. If you do like widescreen high definition photos, you're not going to get that with this device. It's either going to be a bit cropped or a bit stretched out. But I think that overall the camera performance is very decent for what you're getting, and I can't really complain, to be honest. I've also found the battery life to be excellent on this device, which I wasn't expecting it to be that good, to be honest, with the bigger display and the same 2000 mAh battery, same as the old one. I wouldn't say you'd be able to get 5-6 hours screen on time like the old one, which was epic in regards to battery life, but you should easily be able to get 4 to 5 hours of screen on time with this, as long as you don't keep everything on that you shouldn't keep on all the time, such as location at high accuracy. If you just put that onto device only, as well as keep the screen brightness on, I'd say 50 to 60%, you should easily be able to go a day with heavy usage on this device. As we can see, I've had this on for about 9 hours now, and I've been doing a whole load of stuff on it, such as Chromecasting, a bit of messaging here and there, web browsing, YouTube, downloading, uploading, and it's still persevering. You can see the screen on time there. I've had it on for quite a lot. So time on 5 hours now. So you got a battery saver as well, if you want to put that on to eke out a little bit more battery, but I've not really found it's necessary, to be honest. So charging time a slightly bit slower than your Nexus 5. I'd say it's about an hour and a half for a full charge, so not too long really, but not the fastest. Yeah, this is definitely a Road Warriors device. Pity it's not removable, but it's not really that much of a big issue if the battery does last you. So let's give those dual speakers on the front a nice speaker test, just to see how they perform. Overall, they're very decent, I'd say. Not up there with the HTC One or those series of phones like some people have been saying, but there's certainly an improvement over the last iteration of speakers, which were decent in themselves. Only this time, obviously, they're at the front, so you do certainly benefit from decent speakers on this device. The sound through the headphone jack is also quite decent. Can't complain there. And Motorola are very good in giving you a nice equalizer setting, unlike on the Nexus device, which is a bit more in depth. You can customize, the surround effects or the effects profile, or your speaker, your external speakers, which is quite nice. Yeah, I think that audio fans will be well served on this device. I'm a bit disappointed that it doesn't support 4G LTE or even DC HSPA. What with the release of the 4G model of the Moto G, I thought they would have, included it in this device. But it's not been too much of an issue. You still get up to 21 megabits down, and I think it's about 5 megabits up in optimum conditions. So realistically, that translates into about up to 10 megabytes down and about 1 to 2 megabytes up. So page loading is not going to be as fast as some of your 4G LTE devices, but in general, it will load the pages quite decently. And I'm on 3 networks, so probably my reception is not as good as yours. So as you can see, it takes a bit of time to load the content compared to when I'm on my Wi-Fi, but it's not really a big issue. I would have liked it if they did put DC HSPA in there though, kind of like the Nexus 4. That didn't have LTE 4G, and you didn't really notice it because it was so fast anyway. But it comes with your latest Bluetooth dual band Wi-Fi, which is nice. And the Wi-Fi reception seems to be stronger around the house than my Moto X 2013, so I'm not complaining. But other than that, I think overall the package for 140 quid you can't complain with at all. I think this completely annihilates most of the existing low to mid-range phones at the moment. It could obviously be improved in a further iteration which Motorola might bring out. And the way I'd improve it is put a Snapdragon 401 in there with 1.5 gigs of RAM and LTE, and then you'd be pretty much sorted. But if you're looking to move from an older device such as a Galaxy S3, or even I'd say Galaxy S4, you won't really be lacking in terms of features. You'll find you'll get a very nice slick experience, but obviously it can't compare to the higher end devices really when it comes to hardcore multitasking and camera performance. Well, not everyone's looking for that, so it's certainly an excellent device from Motorola, and I would definitely recommend it. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please subscribe or like it, and I'll be back shortly with some more videos. Cheers.